Okay, we are back with episode number 10. I'm so excited. 10 episodes so far of the Move Worthy podcast with Jenny
and Lauren.
And today we are going to go through the buyer process. Just like we did sellers, there's a process for buyers. And while certain things are similar, there's some differences involved. A little more detailed, I guess, but that's when we get into contracts and things, and then the details are similar for sellers too. Mm-hmm. So to start it off, we talked about our seller books last week, and we also have a buyer book that we had made. So every buyer that signs with us will get this nice book to keep that they can always refer back to while we're in the middle of the process. Mm-hmm. And that process starts with a consultation, a chat, even virtual appointments. I mean, we can do Zoom calls, but definitely important to sit down and go through the process, because what ends up happening, especially sometimes with first-time buyers, is they get into the process and
they're not aware.
They're not sure. We didn't cover that.
Right.
Or what do you mean I have closing costs? Well, we didn't ask for that in the offer. I mean, these are real situations that
absolutely
I've had in my time in real estate, is making an entire offer and then a client asking afterwards, did we, is this cover closing costs too?
Right.
Like, no. We didn't put that in the offer. So,
or what do you mean I have to spend $800 on inspections? And wait, I have to make a deposit?
A deposit too?
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh yeah, for sure.
This is some of the most important things, pieces of the process. So a consultation, a buyer presentation is so important in this process.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So.
And buyers should be meeting with more than one realtor. Of course, we do a great job, but I think it's important for a buyer to feel it out. I think some relationships work better than others, and it's just a personality thing, really. But buyers should, if your agent has the time to sit down with you and do a consultation and go over step by step everything that is going to happen and everything you should expect, then you're probably in pretty good hands.
I agree with that.
Yeah,
absolutely. And then now part of the consultation also is going to include buyer agency, representation. What does that look like? What are those fees? How does that impact a buyer's closing costs? I mean, these are all super important things. Mm-hmm. So part of that whole consultation, the buyer agency. I mean, our next advice for a brand new buyer is to speak to a lender.
A lender, absolutely. If you haven't spoke to a lender before you start interviewing agents, you need to do it ASAP. The lenders are going to be the ones that provide you with your budget, and they're going to be the ones to approve you or not approve you. Going through the shopping process with an agent and you're have no idea whether you can buy a house, is a complete waste of time.
Absolutely. Yeah.
For you and for the agent. Of course the agents are going to go above and beyond, looking for what you need, but as a buyer, your significant part of your due diligence is getting with your lender.
Yes.
For sure.
And a lot of people, look, we get it. You want to see a house. You might not 100% be ready to purchase something. You might not want to talk to a lender right away before seeing houses. But I think now with buyer agency, there's strings attached, more so than there ever was.
Right.
So if you really just want to view some homes, I would still get with a realtor, still establish a relationship with someone that you can call, because I would suggest you go look at open houses.
Yeah.
Take a Sunday, take a Saturday, go view open houses in the area that you want to be in. Again, have your realtor a phone call away, because if you see something that you like, then you can give your realtor a call. You're not obligated to work with a realtor who's at the open house. You are okay to go see those homes on your own.
And that realtor, can give you resources. You may not have a lender in mind, or, really know what's available out there as far as lending options go. Most realtors stay up with that, and they can probably guide you in the best direction you could be in for that purpose. So yeah.
I saw a post on Facebook just recently. I had joined this first-time homebuyer group, and a buyer even asked, should I contact a realtor first or a lender first, or the lender first or the realtor? I'd say they both kind of go hand in hand, but if you're ready to get started on the process, I really feel like the realtor is a good first step, because then that realtor is going to explain the next step, the entire process. Call a lender. So I'm still going to say the realtor before the lender.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think the realtor before the lender, but I think the lender before shopping.
Absolutely. Yes, absolutely. And like I said, now so more than ever, because buyer agency is here to stay. It's there's a lot more involved today than there was a year ago. So
yeah.
So next, after you've talked to your realtor, you've gone through the process, you're comfortable with all of the things that go with purchasing a home, your closing costs, your deposit, and what the fees look like, you're going to go look at houses.
Yep.
And you're going to, our job is to narrow down your search. So we're not looking at 100 homes, not that there's 100 homes on the market, but it's your must-haves, the priorities.
And in the beginning, I think you'll probably see more that you don't like than that you do, because I think that you're learning as a buyer, you're learning what it is that you want and what you need, but the agent's also learning that as well. So
Correct.
You kind of, like you said, you rule some things out. You figure out what's an absolute no, what's an absolute yes, and that part gets a little more streamlined through the process for sure.
Right. Yeah. I think my first couple buyers, not knowing exactly where they wanted to be, searching for a lot of different houses. We must have seen 40 plus houses, if not more. Yeah. Before they finally narrowed down location, size. And then another thing is, do you want to do work to a house or do you not? And I think everyone's idea of putting work into a house is different. So while they might have been talking about just paint, and then you walk in and the whole kitchen needs to come out, that's a big difference.
Yeah, that's a huge difference.
I think we saw in that with that buyer, that first one, I think we saw anything from complete gut jobs to completely redone, all across from the West Bank to New Orleans.
But and that also changes your lending options too. Do you need a construction loan? Can you go FHA? Can you, is it conventional only? Like, those are the types of things that you'll narrow down in the first few days too.
Right. And I think
the first few weeks.
And then being a more seasoned agent, we have those conversations up front. Yeah. Being a brand new agent, I had no idea.
No, you're right.
I had no clue. But now I get it. When someone says, hey, I want to find a house to remodel. Okay, well, conventional or construction is pretty much your only two options for that. Or, of course, they have the FHA 203K, which I've honestly never done one in my time as a realtor. I
haven't either. I've come close. I've been on the selling side of one of those, but not the buying side.
I've never been on either.
No.
It's either been whoever it is has either gone straight conventional or construction, or we stopped looking for things that needed work and just did straight FHA or whatever the case may be.
Yeah.
So and then now we have another buying option with the NAV cash.
Oh, with the NAV cash.
That we talked about last week. There's so many programs out there now, NAV cash being one. There's a lot of assistance out there for buyers. So again, talking to your realtor, getting in contact with a great lender that can put on the table all of the options to you as a buyer is super important.
Very.
So after you're looking at houses, you find the one. What do you do?
Right.
You get an insurance quote. That's what you do. No.
This day and age, that's absolutely what you do.
And you might even do that when even if you say I like a house, let me run the insurance quote on that, especially if it's in the areas that we know is
are coming in
higher.
super high.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it's hard to tell.
And some buyers, regardless of whether or not it's in budget or it's not in budget, they may say, absolutely not, I'm not paying that kind of money for insurance.
Right.
Whether it works in their note or doesn't, you know,
I guess too,
that
with the
could
fear of
be
it increasing.
Oh, absolutely.
Already a high rate and then possibly increasing the next year. I mean, that could really hurt a budget.
Yeah. That's another, insurance has become a vital part of real estate transactions, and to have a realtor with you through the process is just going to save buyers. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
I mean, there's just too many changes here in the last few years with insurances and interest rates and buyer agencies, and there's just so much that
if you're out there alone,
you just don't know. You could totally miss it. You could totally miss it.
You could get through the entire process, and then when you get your CD
and you're
and
like,
you see
what?
the numbers, and you're like, where did this come from?
Yeah.
I mean,
It's
and
like
that could kill.
It's your insurance premiums.
Yeah. And at that point, you don't really have an out.
No.
In the contract, so having a realtor by your side is so important, even though there's so much controversy over the topic these days. Like,
Absolutely.
do I really need a realtor? Well, yes. I mean,
and I think it's become more of a controversy now that buyer agency is a thing, because buyers are like, do I really need to pay an agent? Can I just, if there's an agent that's listing the house, do I really need representation? Right. Absolutely.
I mean,
absolutely.
How many phone calls have you gotten from a client or a friend who's working with another agent because they may not trust what that agent told them?
I know.
And you just want to like,
what? Are you serious?
Like, are you serious right now? Just imagine if you went it alone, had no clue,
right.
Chat GPT'd your way through it, and then ended up at the closing table signing something that you are regretting immediately, and you have no out.
Yep.
I mean, that right there says, let me call a realtor.
Yeah.
Let me get my ducks in a row. Let me figure this out and have someone by my side who can get me through this process and have my best interest at heart.
And I think another thing that it's important that buyers know is that don't be scared of the buyer agency commissions.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, buyers agents have managed to, negotiate these things in the contract, leaving minimal for a buyer to pay out, sometimes nothing. And so, let your agent do that part and work on that for you. Don't let that be a factor as to whether or not you hire an agent as a buyer.
Correct. Yeah. And sit down. I mean, you never know until you sit down and have that talk.
Yeah.
You never know until you have the numbers on paper. We do a really good job of putting all the numbers on paper so you know exactly what you're getting into. There's no surprises.
Right.
So, absolutely. Obviously we're biased. We're realtors, but gosh, we've seen it gone.
We've seen it going bad too many times.
We've seen it gone bad too many times with realtors even involved.
Yes.
Where the process,
could have went way worse.
Could have been, exactly.
Yeah.
It could have really been way worse, and that's our job. That's what we do every day. So.
Yep.
You make an offer, you get it accepted, and then you're off to inspections, and I'll back up. So you give your deposit, whatever that may be.
Mm-hmm. Typically 48 hours of an accepted contract, you need to give your good faith deposit.
Either held with a listing broker or the title company of your choice. Then you have your inspections. There's fee, that cost, and that is a buyer cost. The buyer pays for the inspections. Once you go through those, you have an opportunity to ask for any repairs, if any at all. We send that over to a seller. A seller can say yes or say no. Then it comes back to you, and you have an opportunity to say, okay, I'm okay with this, or I'm not.
Mm-hmm.
And again, don't be afraid to lose out on the money for inspections, because we could uncover a major problem with a house.
That's right.
Which will save you thousands in years to come. But for the amount you have to pay for inspections, it's not a waste, even if you have to cancel a sale.
No.
Don't be afraid of that, and you have to be comfortable no matter what. Inspections can range anywhere from, I'd say, $300 to $500, depending on the size of the house, depending on the inspector. You're looking at termite inspection, which has been running around $125 to check a house for termites. Video plumbing inspections run around $250, give or take, depending on the location. And these are gold.
Oh my gosh.
I mean,
to find a major plumbing issue under the slab before you...
That no one knew about.
That no one knew about. I mean, it wasn't a thing that the sellers kept from you. It was something they didn't know either. You know, to find that 10 steps ahead of the game is huge.
Yes, before you buy a house.
Huge.
Before you're in it, because once you're in it, you're in it.
Yep.
And again, back to the seller side, sellers are giving their disclosures based on the things that they know.
That's right.
There are obviously going to be things that they don't know. Maybe they lived in the house for 50 years and never had an issue, had no idea underneath the house. Maybe they just bought it 3 years ago, had no issues, had no idea. Maybe they did or didn't do an inspection. Maybe it was caught or wasn't caught. There's so many possibilities. So I remember we talked about agents waiving inspection periods in 20 and 21, which I thought was insanity. I would never waive an inspection period. Period.
Yeah.
I would always give my buyers time to inspect a property, even if they say, I don't want to inspect it, or I'm going to have my dad walk through it. At least you have the time, and that's their choice.
I did that quite a few times when the market was so crazy. It was like, you know, like, oh, well, if we waive inspections, well, we have a better shot at getting it. And it's like, okay, so there's a difference between waiving your inspection period and not asking for repairs.
Correct.
So let's try and take the safe road. We can say that we won't ask for any repairs, but if you protect yourself and you get that inspection done and you see that there's something major, you could walk away.
Correct. But
without having to do anything else. But if you say you're waiving inspections,
you can't even walk away.
You can't walk away. You just waived that opportunity.
Right.
So I did that with quite a few of my buyers. It's like, okay, if you're comfortable with making repairs that need to be repaired, let's go ahead and do the inspection. But we can put it in the offer that we won't ask for any repairs. It definitely will help when we're competing, for sure.
Right. Yeah. I had a seller. I was working with a buyer, and the seller said, we will not make any repairs. We agreed to that. But then something major came up in the inspections that no one could have known. And we ended up negotiating a portion of that being paid for. And they were adamant, like we said we were doing no repairs. I'm like, yes, we weren't going to come at you with a list of these little things, but this is something major that has to be taken care of.
Right.
And you're going to either have to take care of it with our buyer, or you're going to have to take care of it with the next buyer.
And you know, when they say they're not doing repairs, don't you have to believe somewhat that they're saying they're not doing repairs on something that they are aware of? So when something else comes up that they're not aware of, it's like, okay.
Right.
No one knew. No one knew this. Yeah. I mean, are you going to do you think the next buyer is going to feel the same way? No. They're going to feel the same way we feel. Let's come to a meeting of the minds. Right. But again, if you have an agent, that part.
I was thinking the exact same thing. I mean, think if you were on your own doing that, would you not want to deal with the confrontation, not want to push forward, feel pressured to keep going,
and then have regret
later? While we would say, look, we're not going to ask for the 10 small things.
Right.
This is something major.
Right.
So plumbing is one of those, because no one knows what's going on under the house.
No.
Unless they do, but 9 out of 10, no one really knows until they do those video inspections.
And I've seen newer houses and I've seen older houses. Sometimes that really doesn't matter.
I know, it doesn't. Things happen. The ground shifts.
Yeah.
We're in South Louisiana.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. Once you get through your inspection period, though, everything's been agreed on or not. So either it doesn't, you cancel, and you start looking at houses again. You get your deposit back.
Yes.
That is refundable. You're out your inspection fees. But then if you are happy with everything, the outcome of the inspections, then you move forward to the appraisal. The appraisal is a buyer fee. The fees, I think the cost for that has gone up a little bit. Still running between, you say $475 and $550.
$550, yeah.
Yeah, okay. I hadn't done one in a little while, so I wasn't sure. But after...
We don't ever see the fees, though.
No, we don't.
You know,
We
it's
usually
all
don't. Yeah.
part of the lending process. We typically
I haven't
don't
bought a house
even.
in a while.
Oh, yeah. Oh, I thought you were saying
Well,
you
I
haven't-
was.
Like, what?
But you're right. We don't see those fees.
No,
But I haven't
yeah.
bought one either to pay that out.
No, I haven't either.
So after the appraisal, we haven't, I'll knock on wood, we haven't seen values coming in terrible lately or low. So to me, that's a sign of a healthy market. We have a range of property values. But once you get through that appraisal, it's usually a week or two, and then you can close. And you get the keys the day of closing, and it's a done deal. So
there sometimes can be a very stressful process in the closing. You know, if you're selling a house and you're buying a house and you're having to do a move all in one day, that part, you know, everybody thinks that once they get past the appraisal, it's smooth sailing from there, but not always for the person. I mean, there's not going to be any hiccups that arise, but for the person that's involved, it can be very daunting. It can be very stressful. NAV cash has really been a vital lifesaver for that process, because I know we talked about this last week. You know, NAV cash will pay for the property that you're buying in cash and give you 90 days to sell your home that you're currently in. So that's huge when it comes to that buying and selling process together. It can be a little much.
Yeah, I mean, all in all, and the feedback I hear from buyers, it's a process, and we're working on certain things on our end, and then you have
your end
things that you have to do as far as with your lender, getting documents in on time, providing everything that they need. Once it goes to underwriting, they may ask for more documentation, and it could be a little tedious, but just know, like, we're working with your lender, we're working with the title company, we're talking to the insurance agent, and we're trying
working
to
with the other agent.
We're working with the other agent in order to make the process as smooth as possible for you. So all you really do have to worry about is getting your documents in on time
and packing your house
and packing up your house. And we'll usually give
that part we can't do.
Yes, and we'll give you an idea of when it's time to do that. I like to get through inspections.
I like to get through appraisal.
And so after inspections, I'll say, okay, start planning your packing.
Or decluttering.
And then
whatever
once we
it is
get
that,
through appraisal, it's time to kick it into gear.
Yeah.
So.
Yep. You book that U-Haul.
Oh, gosh, the moving company. Moving companies, I find, have been reasonably priced.
I would agree with that.
Lately. I've had a lot of buyers.
It got ridiculous for a while. It was super expensive.
I've had a lot of people say they've had good things to say about the movers, pricing, and just the process, not having to do it all on your own.
Yeah.
That's
and they're not just loading a truck and moving it. Like, some of these companies are coming in and packing and wrapping, and I mean, it's it's definitely.
We got, the last time we moved, we got a pod, and of course we're not professional movers.
Yeah.
Our furniture, you know, the pods move. They don't just stay still. They move it to their place, and they move it to your new house.
Right.
Our furniture was beat up.
Oh gosh.
Yeah. I think if I ever have to move again, I feel like I'm at an age now, like, I'm going to hire movers. I'm gonna do this right. I'm going to save my furniture. But yeah, we had some nicks and dings and some things, but I mean, it's our own fault. So
you packed it in there.
We packed it. We did it. I mean, we did good. It was all right. So, but that's the buyer process. It is not always stressful. It is a lot. It's a process, but it's fairly simple. And when you're working with a realtor, we're going to walk you through every step of the way,
and make sure you're comfortable with
make sure you're comfortable with everything.
Yeah.
And that just goes back up to the beginning of the process, is that consultation, knowing your fees, talking to the lender, knowing your monthly payments, and then go look for a house.
Yep.
Don't put the cart before the
horse.
For the horse?
Yes.
I almost got that wrong.
You almost said it backwards.
I almost said it backwards. So, yes. So, all right. Well, we will end it there. This is the buyer process. We are the Move Worthy podcast with myself, Jenny Lindley.
And Lauren Jones.
And together we have the experience to move you forward.